The door was unlocked. That was the first thing. In 8 months of living together, Jamie Callahan had never once left that door unlocked. She was the kind of person who checked it twice before bed, and once more after she had already gotten under the covers, who texted me across an ocean to ask if I remembered whether I'd latched the window in the bathroom before I left. The door being unlocked was the first sign that something about tonight was different. The second sign was the music. Low, coming from the living room. The kind she played when she was doing something she found embarrassing, reorganizing the pantry by expiration date, or attempting a recipe from a cooking class she had taken once and never discussed again. The kind of music that meant she thought she was alone. I had been awake for 31 hours. I had a duffel bag on my shoulder and 8 months of absence behind me, and the particular kind of tiredness that sits behind your eyes and makes everything look slightly more significant than it probably is. I had not called ahead. I had meant to, and then the flight got in 3 hours early, and I thought, the door will be unlocked or it won't, and either way I'll know something. I pushed the door open. She was standing in the middle of the living room in paint-covered overalls. The wall behind her, the long wall I had left bare and white and entirely unremarkable, was covered in a mural. Figures. Light. Something that looked like it had been taking her months to plan and weeks to paint. She had her brush raised. She had not heard me. Then, she turned. She froze, not the startled freeze of someone caught off guard, the other kind, the kind that is about more than surprise. You weren't supposed to see this, Jamie said. My name is Connor Merritt. I'm 32 years old. I'm a structural engineer, which means I spend a professional lifetime telling people which walls can come down and which ones are load-bearing, and the irony of that is not lost on me. I had been in the Army Reserves for 6 years before this deployment. Long weekends, annual training, the ordinary rhythm of a life that existed in 2 registers, the civilian one and the other one, which was quieter and more serious, and required a certain kind of compartmentalization that takes years to learn, and a specific quality of friendship to survive. Jamie was the specific quality of friendship. We had met 3 years before the deployment, at a structural engineering conference, where she had given a presentation on tension distribution in suspension bridges, and I had spent 40 minutes pretending to take notes, while actually trying to figure out if someone could be that precise about physics, and that warm at the same time. The answer, it turned out, was yes. She was an outlier. I had poor survival instincts around outliers. We had become friends the way certain people do, fast and without much ceremony, like the friendship had already existed, and we were just meeting it for the first time. 6 months later, when her lease ended and mine had the room, she moved in. 1 wall each in the living room for bookshelves. Her chaos on the left, my order on the right. It had worked. The way things work when 2 people are both sensible enough to agree on systems and self-aware enough to know which fights are worth having. The wall I'd left blank was because I couldn't decide. She used to say I was the only person she knew who spent more time thinking about negative space than actual space. She was not wrong. I had left for deployment in February. She had walked me to the car at 4 in the morning. She had said, "Come back, okay?" in the specific tone of a person who is choosing practical language because the other kind would require something she wasn't ready to name. I had said, of course. 8 months, 2 weeks, and 11 days later, I was standing in the doorway of our apartment. The mural covered the entire wall, not a casual thing, not something she had done on a weekend with a roller and some leftover color. This was considered. The figures were rendered in warm ochre and deep blue, architectural in their framing, each one caught in motion. A woman looking up, a man mid-step, a room full of light at the end of a corridor. In the bottom right corner, barely noticeable, was a small figure with a duffel bag over one shoulder. Her fingers tightened around the brush. "How long have you been standing there?" she said. "Long enough. You were supposed to call from the airport." "I know." She looked at the wall, not at me. "When did you start it?" I asked. A pause. "November, and then quieter after you left." She heard what she'd said after she said it. 8 months of work started in the first weeks after I was gone. I did not point this out. I had the sense that pointing it out would be the specific kind of mistake that costs you something you have not yet realized you have. "It's not finished," she said. "What's missing?" She looked at the corner, the small figure with the bag. "I wasn't sure how it ended," she said. That landed. I set the duffel bag down. The small sound of it hitting the floor was the loudest thing in the room for a second. The room smelled like paint and coffee, and the particular mix of things that meant home in a way that I had spent 8 months trying not to think about too directly, because that kind of thinking, over an ocean, is the slow kind of damage. "Jamie," I said. "It was supposed to be done before you got back," she said. "That was the plan. You were supposed to walk in, and it would be a thing I had done. A thing that was already finished. Not," she gestured vaguely at herself. "At the overalls, at the brush in her hand. Not this. What is this?" She set the brush down on the drop cloth. Carefully, the way she set things down when she was managing something she did not want to be visible. "This is me, not ready," she said. "For me to come home?" She looked at me then. "Finally, for you to see it," she said, before I figured out how to explain it. The thing about Jamie was that she was one of the most precise people I had ever known. She could walk you through the load path of a suspension bridge with the patience of someone who genuinely loved the architecture of things that held weight. She was not imprecise. She was not someone who acted without knowing what the action meant. She had painted a mural of 2 people in a lit corridor on the wall I had left blank. She had put a figure with a duffel bag in the corner. She had started it the week I left. The math was not complicated. I am an engineer. I know load paths. I know which structures are holding weight they have not been formally assigned. "Sit down," I said. "I'm covered in paint." "Sit down, Jamie." She sat. The couch. Her end, the left side, the one with the indentation from 3 years of evenings. She tucked one foot under herself the way she did when she was uncertain and trying not to show it. She looked at her hands. "You painted for 8 months," I said. "I needed something to do with I needed a project." She paused. The apartment was too quiet. The apartment was too quiet. "Don't do that," she said. "Do what?" "Repeat things back in that tone. You sound like a structural report. I write structural reports. I know, I've read them. They're very thorough." A pause. "You always find the load-bearing thing." Something in my chest shifted. Not dramatically. Just the specific way of a thing that has been waiting a long time to land somewhere and has finally landed. "What was the plan?" I said. "If the mural was done. If I walked in and it was already finished. What were you going to say?" She looked at the wall. "I was going to say I redecorated," she said. "That's a lot of wall for redecorating. I have strong opinions about negative space." She almost smiled. Almost I was going to wait. I'm good at waiting. I was going to see what happened when you came back. Whether things were the same or different. Whether you. She stopped. She picked up the hem of her sleeve and rubbed a spot of blue paint that wasn't coming off. "You were gone for 8 months, Connor. People come back from 8 months different. I didn't want to be a thing you came back to out of habit. That hit harder than I expected. You thought I might come back different, I said. People do. And if I had? She was quiet for a moment. Honest quiet, not evasive. Then the mural would have been something I painted for me, she said. And that would have been okay. It still would have been true. It just would have been a different kind of true. I looked at the wall. The figures, the corridor, the small person with the bag in the corner. You put me in it, I said. I put a figure in it, with a duffel bag. She did not answer. Jamie, Connor, I did not come back different, I said. She looked at her hands. Her fingers were quiet now. She wasn't fidgeting, wasn't managing anything, just still. No, she said. Barely a question. I came back to a door that was unlocked, I said, which has never happened in 3 years of living together, and a wall full of 8 months of work that you started the week I left, and you standing in the middle of it at 11 o'clock at night in paint overalls, and the first thing you said was, you weren't supposed to see this. Which is? Jamie. Not the sentence of a person who painted the wall for herself. She was very still. The sentence of a person who painted the wall for herself, I said, is, what do you think? Or, I did something to the living room. Not, you weren't supposed to see this. That's the sentence of a person who wasn't ready to be seen. A long pause. The music had stopped at some point. I hadn't noticed when. I've been practicing that speech for 8 months, she said quietly. The one where I explain it. I had 3 different versions. A breath. I didn't expect you at 11 o'clock on a Wednesday. I know. I'm sorry. Don't be. She looked up. She stopped again. Then something in her shifted. The guarded version, the managed version, the one that was good at waiting, and the other version showed instead. The one underneath. I left the door unlocked because I do that sometimes now when I'm working. Because the apartment doesn't feel. She closed her eyes for a second. It doesn't feel like something bad can get in when I'm in the middle of it. When I'm painting. It feels like the good version. The good version of what? Of here, she said. Of this. Of. She gestured at the room, at the wall, at the approximate space between us. Of whatever this has been. I got up from the chair and sat on the couch. Not close enough to crowd. Close enough to matter. Tell me what it is, I said. The mural. What is it actually? She looked at the wall for a long time. It's a corridor, she said, with light at the end, and 2 people who have been walking in the same direction for a long time without saying that's what they were doing. A pause. And a figure in the corner who was gone for a while and then came back. How does it end? I said. The figure in the corner. What happens to him? She looked at me. I don't know yet, she said. Soft, the kind of soft that means the opposite of uncertain. I've been waiting to find out. I reached over. Carefully, the way you touch something you have been thinking about across an ocean for 8 months, without letting yourself think about it directly. Her hand was still paint-stained. She turned it over. I think, I said. He walks into the corridor. Her fingers closed around mine. Yeah? She said. Yeah, she laughed. Once, small. The kind that comes out when you have been holding something tense for a long time and it finally lets go. Your timing, she said, is genuinely terrible. I'm aware. I'm covered in paint. I've been awake for 31 hours. This is not the recommended version of this moment. No, I said. It's accurate, though. She looked at the wall one more time. Then, back at me. Give me 5 minutes to change out of the overalls, she said. I'll be here. She stood. She paused at the doorway to the hall, hand on the frame. Connor. Yeah, I'm glad you came back the same, she said. Not looking at me, looking at the wall, the corridor, the light at the end of it. I was hoping you would. She went down the hall. I sat in the quiet of the living room, with the mural and the smell of paint and coffee, and the door that had been left unlocked. Nothing important had appeared overnight. It had simply stopped hiding. 6 months later, she finished the mural. I was there when she did, a Saturday morning, coffee going, her on the step stool in the same overalls, adding the last detail to the figure in the bottom right corner. I watched her do it without telling her I was watching. When she stepped back, the figure with the duffel bag was in the corridor now. Not in the corner. Inside the light. She came and stood next to me. Better, I said. Better, she agreed. 2 years after that, when people asked how we figured it out, us, the shape of the thing we had both been careful not to name for 3 years, Jamie told them she had been caught mid-project. That I'd come home early and ruined the plan. I let her have that version. She knew what the plan had always been. She knew that you do not paint 8 months of a wall for yourself and put a figure with a bag in the corner and leave the ending unfinished. That is not a project. That is a question left open. She had just been waiting for someone to walk through the door and answer it. It wasn't new. It had probably always been her. Here's what I keep coming back to. Have you ever put something out into the world that was meant for one person, and then had to decide, when they actually saw it, whether to explain it or let it speak? And is there a door you've left unlocked, without quite admitting why? Tell me below. And if you've been here for a while, you know what comes next. Subscribe. Every story starts with something that wasn't supposed to be seen. This one started with a wall full of months.